Okay, so there will be COP29 in November.
Yeah.
How can this challenge be addressed?
One of the key things that should be done in this COP29, there should be opportunities for women delegations. Let there be opportunities for women delegations. We have experienced women leaders, and we also have women who are also emerging that have a little basic knowledge about climate change. If there will be opportunity for women delegations, opportunity for women to be represented in high places of discourse, I think they will be able to bring in their specific needs, take their needs into account, because they said it is only the person that wears a shoe that knows where the shoes pinches most. And to me, I feel if women are brought to the table, you can't make decisions about me when I am not there to speak about myself.
Yeah, that brings me to the next point, the next question I want to ask. How can we ensure female representation in climate decision-making processes?
Yeah, so let's just say, let's start from integration, integrating aspects of gender, especially that has to do with the female gender, into climate change policies and programming as well. Currently in Nigeria, we have climate change policy, but it is just now, I'm telling you, it is just now that effort is being made to integrate the aspect of gender into the climate change policy. Some states don't even have climate change policies. So we have the national policy, for example, but we don't, the aspects of gender is silent on it. It's silent in those policies. So if we can start from there, all programming, designing, planning, we should bring into consideration the aspect of gender. How do we bring this into play? How do we look at also the age segregation? We also look at inclusivity that has to do with the people with disability, the gender, looking at the male gender, looking at the female gender. We talked initially, I said from the beginning, that climate change impacts men and women differently. So when we look at it like that, we now try as much as possible to either mainstream or integrate this aspect of gender into the climate change policy, and deliberately ensure that not just in integrating it, ensure that these policies are effective, they're being implemented. So I think one of the things that should be achieved in this COP29, as well as the aspect of women representation, is to ensure that women are given a quota, for example. Now in Nigeria, we have women are actually asking for just 35% affirmation. So if women are asking for 35, okay, let's look at the aspect of quota. Let's say 30% or 40 or 50% quota should be delegated to women. I take example from Adamawa State, for example. Adamawa State government made a decision at the last local government election. They made a decision, and the governor gave an order, I will call it an order, that all vice chairmen of the entire 21 local government must be female. So that stance is non-contestable. So if that position also is being placed for women, I think women representation in either any high place of discourse, like even in the COP29, would be great.
All right. You made mention of the Adamawa as an example where women are deputized or are vice chairman of local government.
Yeah.
I would like to actually ask for that, if that is enough for women. Can't women lead and men deputize them?
Definitely. I think to us, we feel it is a step ahead. Why? Because before, a woman hardly gets even councillorship. Yeah. A woman, you discover that among how many councillors, you just hear maybe 1 or 2 councillors. That is among like 50 something. But to us, we feel this is a step ahead for us, the women. And it is just the beginning. The next one we'll have women leading. Yeah.
That's okay. Lastly, I would like to ask because you said women need to be given opportunity to be represented in climate decision-making processes, and I would like to ask, what are the examples of some of the women-led initiatives that have really scaled, that can be seen as some of the things that women can do to make sure that, yes, they have done this thing before, and when we give them opportunity, a higher platform, they would impact and make actionable change?
There's this women-led organizations / women rights organizations in disaster risk reduction and climate change, which is here in Nigeria. Is being facilitated and led by UN Women and UNDP.
Okay.
And I know them, they actually advocate for gender mainstreaming into disaster programming, into climate change programming. They also try as much as possible to do some interventions in local communities where they can amplify voices of women when it comes to aspects of disaster. I think there's another one, African Women Development Fund. This one is basically in Africa, though I don't have much interaction or contact with them, but I've known this one also exists here in Africa. Like the women-led, I told you, and the women rights, my organization is part of it.
Okay.
Yes, Against All Odds Foundation is actually part of those women-led and women rights organizations in disaster risk and climate change.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you on Climate Connect podcast. Is there something else you would like to also share with our audience or share with the general public?
Okay, I will say we've talked a lot about women's representation. We've also talked much on the women's impact of climate change on women. I will also say that let's try as much as possible to cascade some of these informations. Like some of our women in the local communities, they lack information about climate change. They lack information, they lack access to resources and even technology. When you talk about climate change, you cannot talk about it without mentioning aspects of technology. Things like solar initiatives, these are all technologies. Some of them in the communities, they don't know about it. When we went to the communities last year to implement some activities on climate change, some of them were actually hearing about it for the very first time. They don't even know that some of the activities they do daily, all these human activities that they do contribute to climate change. They don't know. So they need to be made aware. And they need to, some of them are actually doing great and amazing things in the community, but their voices are not being heard. So if we can, that is why I said initially, if we can bring up well-experienced women leaders on climate change and also bring up emerging women, give them opportunities also for mentorship, give them opportunities to network, yeah? We can give them opportunities like this COP29, for example. It's a very good grant that we can give women opportunities to network and mentor one another. Yeah, then that also will help them to come up, and they have a lot of stories to tell about climate change and how it impacts their communities.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sarah Jackson.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your presence on our podcast.
Thank you so much.
All right. That's where we end this edition of the podcast. Next week is another day, and we'll be here for another beautiful edition. Do keep it with us, but before you leave, please subscribe and share this video with your network. Love you.